So I'm here with one of my clients. His name is Terence.
Hey, hi.
And it's very nice because he actually offered to shoot this testimonial video for us. I didn't even really ask him. I think that's a really nice dynamic. It's really awesome to have clients that are willing to do things for us as well, because when we first started out, we didn't really have nice clients like yourself. It was really just a service provider client relationship. But I think what I've experienced with you is that I feel like it does transcend that a bit. You do help me a lot in my own business as well. And it's something that I'm really grateful for, and something that makes me want to deliver more good results for you as well.
That's awesome.
Thanks. So maybe you could just share with me, like, what made you decide to choose us in the first place, and what problems you were having before that?
Well, for me, I've always been involved in using paid traffic, paid media as one of my main traffic generation methods. Everything has always been done with my in-house team. But I guess there's always how much you're actually able to come up in terms of creativity with the in-house team. Of course, every month my team is still coming out with new creative angles, but sometimes we want to be able to think out of the box. And as is often said in business, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes it's always good to have a fresh perspective. And that's where we were thinking of the idea of getting, somebody else to also be able to help us to come up with new creative angles, new creative assets. And also we wanted to be able to use all this not just for paid media, but to be able to use it for organic traffic as well. That's one area that I've always wanted to do better in, because although paid media literally is you pay for the traffic and the traffic comes, but for longevity, organic traffic is still something that I've always wanted to go into, but somehow it's just something that I've always been putting back. I put it on the back bench because I didn't really have the time to do it. And you came highly recommended by some of my industry buddies. They worked with you and they said that you're really a very, very good person to work with, really wonderful ethics, and your creative angles and everything are really very, very good. And that's where I told myself, well, why not let's give this whole entire collaborative partnership a shot. And I'm really glad that I took that step forward, because in that short span of time that we've been working together, you have given so many good ideas, you have given so many good creative angles, and some of the assets you've actually done for me and my company have really done very, very well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in terms of reach, in terms of even using it for paid traffic, for organic traffic, it's really been working very well.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for your kind words. Have you ever considered other agencies before, or other similar service providers?
Well, to be honest, a lot of agencies always say that they can deliver this, they can deliver that. They always tell you that they can literally deliver the sky. Okay, but many of them, unfortunately, sometimes they fall short, okay? But I've realized that in working with you, right, you give very realistic expectations, you don't promise the sky or anything. You tell us very clearly what to expect from this, what we can expect from this, and I think that's great, because when you set the expectations right, then we know very clearly what we can expect from each other.
Thank you. And what do you think is a right expectation to have going into something like this?
I would say whether there's a right or wrong expectation, I think it's just being transparent, because right or wrong is always subjective. Like when you say what's the right expectation, it really depends on the client's needs. Like even for my own business, right, I don't set a uniform blanket expectation with everyone. I'm always asking okay, so what does this client need? What does that client need? What does this student need? What does that student need? And I see whether I'm actually able to meet their needs, and if I can, I'll tell them that I can. If I can't, then I'll tell them this is what I can do. So I think in terms of what's the right expectations, it's really about being transparent, being open, being upfront. And that's what collaborative partnerships are all about, because when you actually are transparent, then you and your client, the agency or the client, can actually really go into a discussion on what can really be achieved, and only when both parties are happy, that the agency knows that it's able to satisfy the client's needs, and the client knows that what the agency can deliver is what the client actually also needs, then that's where a partnership can actually be solved, or rather created. Yeah.
Understand. Awesome. Just something that's always going through my mind, because I didn't start this very long ago. I didn't also have a wealth of experience, and I'm obviously, some people think that I'm quite a young guy as well. How is your experience working with someone like that?
in terms of somebody who's like getting started and somebody who's like maybe younger and stuff?
Yeah, I think probably something that I always face sometimes is like a little bit of self-doubt as well. I look at like people like you who have made it in life, who are very successful, and
Right.
it's awesome that you're choosing to work with me. Obviously, it makes me even more motivated to get you guys good results.
Awesome.
But just wondering also like why choose us?
There's a few reasons, like what I said. One was the fact that you came highly recommended by some of your industry peers. Second one was that my partner and I like the fact that you're just very transparent in terms of what you can actually help us to achieve. And personally for me, with respect to what you mentioned about you feeling that you don't have that much experience and maybe you are like new to the business, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs, this is something that also resonates with them in the sense that every entrepreneur, no matter how successful they are, no matter what level of success they are at this point in time, everybody actually started from ground zero. Yeah, unless of course they were born with a silver spoon in the mouth, then that may be a different story. But for every entrepreneur that started off from ground zero, they would have gone through the exact same path that you're going through now. And like for me, for example, if my mentors didn't give me a chance, if my initial partners didn't give me a chance, if my initial clients didn't give me a chance, I wouldn't be where I am today. And a lot of times I always believe in this thing called paying it forward, like how my mentors actually helped me, I want to be able to help others as well. So I understand how you feel because I felt the same way before, but I found that it's really about giving others a chance, because if you never give others a chance, like for example, if my partner and I, we didn't give you a chance, we would have discovered the joy of working together with you. Yeah, so a lot of times, maybe a lot of entrepreneurs, they choose to work with like more experienced agencies, but I found that an experienced agency doesn't necessitate or doesn't necessarily mean that they would deliver the very, very best experience. Yeah, so it's, in my personal thoughts, it's not about the experience. It's really about the kind of vibes, the kind of collaborative atmosphere, the kind of environment that the whole entire foundation is built on.
All right, so maybe I want to ask you about the ideas as well, right? So far with the creatives you've shot, what do you think is something different or something fresh that you're seeing?
In terms of the creative you've shot for us, I feel that they detract, or rather they are quite different from the standard creatives I used to shoot with some of the other agencies I work with. Like for example, one of them that I really liked was how I actually narrated my whole entire life story. And typically with other agencies that I worked with, right, that would have probably been me, maybe just standing and narrating or just sitting down and narrating the whole entire thing. But with you, I really enjoyed the fact that that whole entire story, right, had me being in like different places, being shot from different angles, and it drew people in. It was more engaging because when you are like static in just one location, after a while, even though there's only so much hand gestures and there's only so much that tonality and inflection of my voice can do. But if I'm always like standing one place or sitting one place, people kind of get bored nowadays. It doesn't help that IG reels are really short, YouTube shorts are really short, so people's attention span nowadays is really short. But with you, I realized that the video was very interesting, was kept interesting, kept engaging, because I was in different places, I had different facial expressions, I had different angles, and that was something that I felt was very, very creative and very novel. The other one that I really enjoyed was the one that we just did recently, where I had my younger self talking to my current self. Yeah, that was something which I also found really very, very interesting, because I never thought of doing a creative from that angle. And yeah, same thing. If I were to put myself in the shoes of somebody watching a video, if I was like my target audience, right, I would actually be drawn into that video. Yeah. And I mean, true fact, some of my friends have actually watched some of the creatives that you've done, because they are following me on IG and stuff. And they told me, hey, Terence, did you like change the way you're doing your videos? We noticed that it's very different, it's very fresh, it's very chill, it's got very different vibes. And some of them even said that it was something very humorous and they started to share with their friends around
that's
them.
great.
It's taking on a certain virality which I felt wasn't present in my previous assets that we did.
Awesome, awesome. That's great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to posting the remaining as well. That's good. and how has like the experience been with the team? I mean, I appreciate all the kind words you have
Sure,
said about
sure.
me, and my team is actually pretty young as well. How has
Right.
your experience been with them?
Well, I think they're awesome. I mean, you really have very, very great team members, and being young, they bring a vibrancy, they bring this creative energy to the whole entire equation. And they also give a lot of very, very fresh, how should I put it, fresh views and fresh takes about the whole entire thing. And honest to truth, I guess this is really the age where social media is here to stay and it's gonna take even more and more importance. And I always believe that the people who are more in tune with social media actually are the younger generation.
Yeah.
Which is why in my head, I'm thinking in my head that I should actually be taking creative direction from people of your age and your team's age, because where I come from may not exactly be very relevant. And to me, I'm always in a state where I always believe that if I'm the smartest person in the room, then something is very wrong. So I always like to surround myself with people that have knowledge of things that I may not be very well acquainted with. So I don't, you can't be a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
So I'm good at what I do, okay, but this is your realm, this is your domain expertise, this is what your team is good at. And this is where I should be taking advice and taking that direction from you and your team members. So I feel that it's really great that all of you are young. Like I said, you bring a certain energy, a certain vibe, a certain creative direction to it, and you all have a very fresh take at what this whole thing should be, and this is something that I believe brings a lot of value to the table.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And I guess like something that I wanted to ask as well. I mean, quite a few people are still hesitant to share their story, right? Maybe they believe that, why am I telling my story? I'm supposed to be promoting my business. How do you think that has worked out for you so far?
In terms of sharing my story? Well, for me, I always believe that when you do something, you do it with sincerity, you do it with transparency. I think that in this day and age, a lot of people, what they do is that they do things with like a hidden agenda in place, or maybe not hidden agenda, but they do it with the fact that, okay, they are doing it just to promote their business,
Yep.
they're doing it just to get certain results. But for me, when I share, right, I share with the angle that I walked a certain journey. I've been through a lot of pitfalls, I've been through a lot of potholes, and I just want to be able to help people to avoid those pitfalls and avoid those potholes.
Right.
And I can't help every single person, but if I actually share my video, and even if 100 people have benefited from the video, or 1,000 people have benefited from a video, and they listen to my story and they manage to avoid the pitfalls and potholes, right, then I know I've helped that 1,000 people whom I've been able to reach out to
Yep.
through my videos and through my stories. So it's not so much about just for the sake of the business, because I think times are changing, and I believe that being authentic is more important than just blatantly trying to get your business out there, because I always believe that people don't know, or people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you're always just trying to blatantly promote your business, people are just going to smile you from a mile away. So for me, it's really about sharing my story, helping as many people as possible, and the more lives I can impact, the more lives I can touch. Even if they are not part of my business at this point in time, it's fine, because I just want to be that person that they think of at some point in time down the road when they feel that they are ready for maybe wanting to create something of their own, or being able to create something that help their lives. The first person they think of is me. It may not be now, but maybe 6 months down the road, maybe 1 year down the road, I'm the person they think of because I've been able to help them, I've been able to impact their lives.
Yeah. And you think like the creatives do help in sharing about that as well?
Yes, definitely.
I guess like quite a lot of business owners that I speak to, they want instant results, right? They want instant virality, and then once they get a taste of that, they want it over and over again, right? And obviously, part of my job is to try to help you to get there as well, obviously for the right reasons, right? But I mean, you're actually coming in with a very fresh perspective that even I myself may not have considered fully, right? Because after all, views are right there on Instagram, you can see them. But yeah, I think it's really fresh that you're actually talking about how you rather 100 or 1,000 people who are really invested in your story rather than, for example, 100,000, which obviously you want to help you get, but 100,000 people who just briefly know you on the surface level. So that's awesome.
It's all about the connection, I feel, and connections can also be done over social media as well.
One final question. So what do you think you would say to someone who has doubts about what we have done for you or what we can do for other businesses as well?
Right. Well, for those who might still be sitting on the fence and wondering whether or not Marcus and his team would be able to make an impact for you and your business, let me just share that I know how you feel because I felt the same way before. And the only way that you will know whether or not this will work for you is not by sitting on the fence. The only way you'll know whether this will work for you is by getting off the fence and giving Marcus and his team a chance to actually be able to create something for you. Because it really takes two hands to clap. It's not about just what Marcus and his team can actually do for you. It's also what you are willing to actually, or rather, whether you are willing to give yourself the opportunity to let Marcus and his team be able to create something wonderful for you. And it's not just about whether Marcus can actually help you to create those creative angles. I think you owe it to yourself to also be able to give yourself an opportunity to unleash that latent potential that's within you. And I see Marcus and his team members as people that actually are able to help me to unlock certain things which I never knew I was able to unlock. And I've always been saying that you never know what you never know, and you won't know what you won't know. So give them a chance to actually be able to take a look at your whole business. They could just be able to unlock certain creative angles for you which you never knew existed. They could help you to be able to maybe get certain things out which you never knew you actually had. So give yourself the opportunity, get off the fence, okay, and the only way you'll be able to know whether this works is by working together with his team. And I always say that, I always like to use this best case, worst case scenario. So I can assure you that Marcus and his team, the investment to work with his team is something that's very, very reasonable. And I say reasonable because to me, it's always an exchange of value. And the kind of value that his team has given me is way beyond whatever I've invested with his team. So what's the worst case scenario after working with him? Well, worst case scenario is that, well, maybe you spend X amount of money working with his team. Maybe it didn't give you the results that you wanted. Maybe it didn't give you the virality that you expected. Maybe it didn't give you the reach that you wanted. What's the worst case scenario? I mean, like I said, it's a really very reasonable investment, and you probably would have used that investment elsewhere. Maybe you would have, like, I don't know, used it on some other ways that wouldn't have benefited your business. Maybe you would have splurged or something else, and it wouldn't have given you anything, okay? And worst case, like I said, is that, yes, you invested that, but if the worst case scenario is possible, then the best case scenario is also possible. So what's the best case scenario? Best case scenario is that you invested the amount with Marcus and his team. This really works for you. You get a virality, you get a reach, you get branding. A lot more people know about you and your business starts to grow. And you realize that whatever you are actually investing in him and his business, right, it's just a tiny fraction, a tiny drop in the ocean compared to the results that you're getting. And that's the best case scenario. So if the worst case scenario is possible, all the more the best case scenario is, well, so give yourself an opportunity, give yourself a chance to actually work with Marcus and his team, and you'll be glad you did.
Wow, that's really great. I have to definitely buy you lunch after this. But thank you so much. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, we've only been working together for a pretty short amount of time, and it's very heartening to know that I have been able to drive results for you and your business, and more importantly, that we are aligned on this mission to do this long term as well. Yep. And yeah, I will definitely continue to work very hard to get you guys good results.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.